I have some late breaking news to report. The person on the left side of your screen in the cat in the hat outfit is Liz Phipps from Cambridge in 2015 in school. This is going to be very important as you get later on into the video. How's everybody doing? This is Anthony Brown Logan, and today I bring you a story that is really crazy, but it's not unexpected in today's crazy climate of all the SJWs, the crazy professors all across college campuses, elementary school campuses, high school, middle school, private school, Catholic school, everywhere. It's really a big mess. And what I'm talking about is a librarian in a Boston area school who rejected Melania Trump's gift of 10 Dr. Seuss titles because of a few reasons. Well, really two reasons. The first one is because she thinks that her school has enough resources, but we get to that a little bit later. And also that somehow, some way, Dr. Seuss, his books are racist. We'll get to that. First, we're going to just read a bunch of articles. Of course, this is about reading. It's about books. So we got to read some articles. I'm going to read a little bit of a news article first that just gives a little bit of a teeing up to the story. Then we're going to get into what the librarian said in a letter. We got to read that. And then we're going to read something from somebody else that explains why Dr. Seuss books are, air quotes, racist. And then I'll give you my opinion about all what's going on in a little bit of a summary. So let's just jump straight into it. Let's go straight from the top. Okay, this is Vanity Fair, and the article. An elementary school librarian doesn't want Dr. Seuss books from Melania Trump. She wrote that Seuss is a bit of a cliche, a tired and worn ambassador for children's literature. Okie dokie. There's Melania, holding Dr. Seuss books. And the caption underneath it is pretty small. It says Melania Trump reads Party Animals by Kathy Lee Gifford to children during the White House Easter egg roll on April 17th, 2017. Okay, so it's not a Seuss book, but the art style looks kind of like it, but we'll keep going. Melania Trump has a new battle to fight as First Lady, one with an elementary school librarian from Massachusetts. Trump has been sending a donation of books to one school from each state as part of National Reader Book Day, along with a signed letter in which she writes, "Getting an education is perhaps the most important and wondrous opportunity of our young lives. The library at Cambridge Port School outside of Boston, though, won't be accepting her gift." The school's librarian, Liz Phipps, Sorrow, however you pronounce her name, Barry Sortoro, but I digress, published a letter on the Horn Book Family Reading blog explaining her decision to refuse the First Lady's donation of Dr. Seuss titles. She noted that her school was chosen due to high standards of excellence, and because of that, had no need for the books. She then asked why the First Lady wouldn't put her resources towards schools that are struggling. Okay, now we're going to get to this. Now, she writes this whole thing, like this piece that you're reading right now is an excerpt from a letter that she wrote Melania Trump. So we're going to jump straight into the letter and see what that says. All right. Dear Mrs. Trump, thank you for Dr. Seuss titles that you sent my school library in its recognition of this year's National Reader Book Day. Second day air, no less. That must have been expensive. I'm proud that you recognize my school as something special. It truly is. Our beautiful and diverse. There we go. We already starting right there. Diverse. Triggered already. Student body is made up of children from all over the world, from different socioeconomic statuses with a spectrum of gender expressions and identities. You're talking about elementary school. See, I've told people about this before. People, they say, oh, Anthony, you crazy. The whole transgender thing will not affect children, but here we are. Why are we talking about gender identity in children? They shouldn't be worried about that at all. But I digress. According to the White House website, you selected one school per state by working with the Department of Education to identify schools with programs that have achieved high standards of excellence, recognized by state and national awards and Blue Ribbon Awards. Each of those carefully vetted schools received 10 books. Seussisms because a little book went kachoo. What pet should I get? The cat in the hat. I can read with my eyes shut. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. The Foot Book, Wacky Wednesday, Green Eggs and Ham, and oh, the places you'll go. Now, before we get into the rest of the letter, let's read Melania Trump's letter that she includes with the actual books. All right. Melania Trump, September 1st, 2017. Dear students, hope you had a wonderful summer and are excited to be back at school. Getting an education is perhaps the most important and wondrous opportunity of your young lives. I encourage each one of you to take advantage of these special years while you are in school. Your education will be a lifelong pursuit that will sustain and carry you far beyond your wildest imagination if you will let it. As I was thinking about your return to school, I wanted to send you a special gift. Dr. Suess's Oh, The Places You'll Go is a book my son and I have read over and over again, and one that we want to share with all of you. Remember, the key to achieving your dreams begins with learning to read. Find what you enjoy, anything that interests you, and read about it. Every page will take you on an exciting journey. Please also remember that you are the future of America and that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. Your education is a path to pursuing your happiness. Never stop learning and challenging yourself, and never, ever give up on your dreams. I wish you all a great school year ahead. Melania Trump, White House. Now, what's wrong with that? That was a beautiful letter. I don't see nothing wrong with that, but we're going to keep going in the letter that the Librarian wrote in Boston. We pick up where we left off. My students were interested in reading your enclosed letter, which I just read, and impressed with the beautiful book plates with your name and the indelible White House stamp. However, we will not be keeping the titles for our collection. I'd like to respectfully offer my explanation. My school and my library are indeed award-winning. I work at a district that has plenty of resources, which contributes directly to excellence. Cambridge, Massachusetts is an amazing city with robust social programming, a responsive city government, free all-day kindergarten, and well-paid teachers. Relatively speaking, many of us can afford to live in a city in which we teach. You begging for money? Okay. My students have access to a school library with over 9,000 volumes and a librarian with a graduate degree in library science. Now, you're talking about yourself. Like, are you trying to like, what are you doing? Are you trying to get a pay increase because you like giving out your accolades right here? I mean, are you talking about yourself? You got a degree, a high degree, and you're not making enough money to live. Like, what's going on? But let's keep going. Multiple studies show that schools with professionally staffed libraries improve student performance. The American Association of School Librarians has a great infographic on these findings. Many schools around the state and country can't compete. Yearly per pupil spending in Cambridge is well over $20,000. Our city's values are such that given the huge range in the socioeconomic status of our residents, we believe that each and every child deserves the best free education possible and are working hard to make that a reality. Most classrooms maintain a 60-40 split between free reduced lunch and paid lunch. This offers our Title I school in the district a lot of privilege and room for programming and pedagogy to foster high standards of excellence. Even so, we still struggle to close the achievement gap, retain teachers of color. I mean, what are you talking about? What is the achievement gap? What you mean that black students are not as well prepared as white students? That really can be boiled down to early education. I'm not talking about kindergarten. I'm talking about when you are at home. You know, how many of these black kids have books in their house? How many of these black kids go to school already knowing how to read, write, colors, all that kind of stuff like that? But I digress. Let's keep going. Even so, we still struggle to close the achievement gap, retain teachers of color, and dismantle the systemic white supremacy in our institution. Oh, my gosh. Oh, see, you already know what this is. But hell, we test well. And in the end, it appears that data and not children are what matters. Meanwhile, school libraries around the country are being shuttered. Cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Detroit are suffering through expansion, privatization, and school choice. So you're against school. Why are liberals so against school choice? I don't understand. Why is it such a bad thing? Like, I benefited from school choice. I was able to choose to go to where I wanted. And I made a good decision for myself in the future to be able to gain skills that I would not have had at the school that was going to be assigned to me. You see, like, why is school choice a bad thing? School choice really, it encourages competition so schools can be better. When you have a public school, they have no real incentive to become better because the students got to go there anyway. So why become better? They're not in competition with anybody. With no interest in outcomes of children, their families, their teachers, and their schools, are those kids any less deserving of books simply because of circumstances beyond their control? Why not go out of your way to gift books to underfunded and underprivileged communities that continue to be marginalized and maligned by policies put in place by Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos? Why not reflect on those high standards of excellence beyond only what the numbers suggest? Secretary DeVos would do well to scaffold and lift schools instead of punishing them with closures and slashed budgets. So my school doesn't have a need for those books. And then there's a matter of the books themselves. You may not be aware of this, but Dr. Seuss is a bit of a cliche and a tired and worn ambassador for children's literature. As First Lady of the United States, you have an incredible platform with world-class resources at your fingertips. Just down the street, you have access to a phenomenal children's librarian, Dr. Carla Hayden. That's what it is right there on the left-hand side of your screen. The current Librarian of Congress. I have no doubt Dr. Hayden would have given you some stellar recommendations. Another fact that many people are unaware of is that Dr. Seuss's illustrations are steeped in racist propaganda, caricatures, and harmful stereotypes. One of his books, If I Ran a Zoo, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, for example, and you'll see the racist mockery in his art. Grace Huang Lynch's school library journal article, Is a Cat in the Hat Racist? Read Across America shifts away from Dr. Seuss and towards diverse books. What am I reading? Is this real? You gotta understand, this is an elementary school teacher. She's talked about white supremacy, gender identity, and children. Children. You talking 6-year-olds. When I was 6, 7 years old, I was worried about playing Super Nintendo, going outside, playing with friends. You know, I was worried about books that I would read for entertainment. I was not worried about gender identity. That had nothing to do with nothing. That's just retarded. Like, if you're talking about gender identity in children, you're abusing kids. But let's move on. Grace Huang Lynch's school library journal article, Is a Cat in the Hat Racist? Read Across America shifts away from Dr. Seuss and toward diverse books. Reports on Katie Issue, Japanese name, I can't pronounce it. Work analyzing the minstrel characters and trope nature of Dr. Seuss's characters. Scholar Philip Nell's new book, Was a Cat in the Hat Black? The Hidden Racism of Children's Literature and the Need for Diverse Books, further explores and shines a spotlight on the systemic racism and oppression in education and literature. I'm honored that you recognize my students and our school. I can think of no better gift for children than books. It was a wonderful gesture, if one that could have been better thought out. Books can be a powerful way to learn about and experience the world around us. They help build empathy and understanding. In return, I'm attaching a list of 10 books. It's a librarian in me that I hope will offer you a window into the lives of many children that affected by the policies of your husband's administration. You and your husband have a direct impact on these children's lives. Please make time to learn about and value them. I hope you share these books with your family and kids around the country, and I encourage you to reach out to your local librarian for more recommendations. Warmly, Liz Phipps, Sawyer, School Library in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Okay, and there is Liz right there. That is Miss Liz right here, so that pretty much tells you all you need to know. Let's go look at this book recommendation list. I want to see this. Okay, here's the book list. Miss Trump, you sent 10 picture books, so I recommend 10 as well. But there are so many more. My wish is that these books will help you see the beautiful resilience of children who stand up to racism and oppression and for social justice and reform. Children who were trying to connect with parents who are incarcerated simply because of their immigration status. Look, man, if you're here illegally, just come here legally. How about that? Children who integrate aspects of their own cultures and countries of origin into their new country. Kids who don't assimilate, basically. Children whose parents risk everything to enter the U.S. so they can have a chance at a future free from violence and or poverty. Okay, if you come here legally, ain't nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Children who challenge society's social constraints and are accepted and loved as who they are. That goes back to that whole gender stuff. Auntie Yang's Great Soybean Picnic, written by Jenny Lowe, illustrated by Beth Lowe. Author and illustrator sisters retell how their aunt, a Chinese immigrant to the Midwest, created a family tradition on a family outing in the 1950s. Auntie Yang discovers a field of soybeans and a way to overcome homesickness for China while sharing a very special food. Their heartfelt story is accompanied by enamel on porcelain art carefully drawn with colored glazes. Okie dokie. The Boy and the Bindi, written by Vivek Shraya, illustrated by an Indian. Okay. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I see a boy with flowers in his hair. So, I can assume it's some LGBT stuff. Drum Dream Girl, how one girl's courage changed music, written by Margarita Engel, illustrated by Rafael Lopez. A young girl on the island of music dreams of becoming a drummer, but only boys play drums. The story is based on Malo Castro Zaldariaga, a Chinese African Cuban girl who broke Cuba's traditional taboo against female drummers. Poetic text takes its cues from Zaldariaga's chosen instrument. Saturated acrylic on wood illustrations capture the island's musicality and the surreal dream images that inspire young Malo. Okay. King for a Day, written by another Indian, illustrated by Christian Cromer. Action-filled collages of traditional fabrics, textured paper, yam, and more display intricate sky and cityscapes of Lahore, Pakistan, during Basant, the Spring Kite Festival. Malik skillfully using his handmade small kite to conquer the bully next door. And the kite battle is a real hero that he uses a wheelchair and is incidental to the story. Useful contextual information is appended. So you have a disabled Muslim. That's what that is. It's all about identity politics. That's what all these books are. Okay, let's go back up. You got somebody that's trying to be more like a male. That's a girl. Get involved in a male activity. You got this boy with flowers in his hair, and I don't even know what's going on here. I guess it's like, Chinese people and their whole thing. Okay, let's go down. Mama Nightingale, a story of immigration and separation, written by Edwidge Danticat, illustrated by Leslie Staub. In a gentle story, Haitian American Saya's mother is incarcerated because she has no papers. Oh boy. Danticat's direct, resonant prose doesn't shy away from the realities, telling of the loneliness of missing your mother and the trauma of saying goodbye at the detention facility. Why so depressing? Like, when I was a kid in elementary school, I read books to have fun. I enjoyed reading. I had a love for reading, a passion for reading. These books would scar me. It'd make me sad, make me want to cry. Like, I was reading stuff like Goosebumps, Animorphs, comic books, X-Men, all that, man. Like, I had fun reading. I don't want to read about somebody being locked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had people that was locked up in my family. Well, I need to read a book about that. When I was 6 years old, I had an uncle that died from HIV AIDS. Why do I read a book about that? My real life has enough trauma in it. Why would I want to read books at a young age to experience more trauma? I'm trying to read books to have fun. But let's keep going. Staub's naive style oil paintings keep the focus on the child. The larger issue of the plight of refugees and immigrants makes the story universal. My Cold Plum Lemon Blue. Okay. My Cold Plum Lemon Pie Bluesy Mood, written by Tamika Fryer Brown, illustrated by Shane Evans. Okay, Jamie expresses his shifting emotions in the rainbow of colors. His cool purple grape juice drinking, bobbing to the beat kind of mood shifts to a gloomy gray kind of place. So basically, this person has bipolar. What? Like, okay, let's keep going. When his brothers are mean and so on, the stuttering free verse can be difficult to follow. Evans' hue-specific digital collage illustrations provide most of his conceptuality. Smart books expression. Okay, dokie. Red, a crayon story. Okay. Written and illustrated by Michael Hall. Crayon Red is labeled red, but he colors blue, which creates frustration for other crayons and thus Red himself. Red struggles until his new friend Barry asks him to make a blue ocean. Once he lets go of his label, everything turns around, including the other crayon's mind. Smart design and sharp details keep the story effective and amusing. All right. Okay. Separate is never equal. Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation. Okay, you got a bunch of Hispanics and I guess like some whites. All right. Written and illustrated by Duncan Tiu, I guess. In 1947, the Mendez family fought for and won the desegregation of schools in California. Tontiu uses a child's viewpoint to succinctly capture the segregated reality of Mexican Americans. The straightforward narrative is well matched with illustrations, and Tontiu's signature style. Their two-dimensional perspective reminiscent of Mexitec codex, but collaged with paper, wood, etc. to provide textural variation. An author's note with photos is appended. Okay. Somos Como las Nubes / Real Light the Clouds, written by Jorge Argueta, illustrated by Alfonso Riano, translated by Alaza Arnado. So a bunch of Hispanics. Argueta's bilingual collection gives voice to refugee children who immigrate from Central American countries to the United States in search of safety for better lives. Their poems, written in the first person, present the candid perspective of children's experiences. They include whimsical imagery, but also scary threats. Delicate illustrations present both realistic portrayals and surreal depictions that complement the textual imagery. I would not want to read that. Two White Rabbits, written by Hilario Buitrago, illustrated by Rafael Yaktang, translated by Alaza Arnado. I guess probably it's the same people that did this one. Same publisher, Groundwood. A girl and her father travel by foot, by raft, and by train. As they travel, the girl counts the things she sees. I count the people who live by the train tracks. Originally published in Spanish, this quiet picture book highlights the experience of a child refugee or immigrant. Yaktang's contemplative graphic illustrations clearly depict the pain, frustration, and boredom of the journey. And that's your lovely librarian right there. This is the person that's feeding your children these poisonous books. Liz Phipps. Sororio. Okay, she's an elementary school librarian in Cambridge, Massachusetts public schools. She is an advocate for inclusive libraries and active in their community to create spaces that are welcoming to all students. Boy, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. Okay, we got to close up here. I know I'm taking a long time, but y'all got to bear with me. Shout out to everybody that's been here so far and listen to this whole thing. Now what we got to do is look at the book that this person wrote about how Dr. Suess is racist. Okay. Is the Cat in the Hat racist? Yes. And other kids' books are too, says Professor. Okay. A half century after the civil rights movement, the share of school children in this country who were not white has grown to half of all kids enrolled. Yet the number of children's books published by featuring children of color never surpasses more than 15% in any given year. Okay, whose fault is that? This glaring imbalance points to a state of literary apartheid, argues Philip Nell, a scholar of children's literature whose new book contends that beloved children's classics reflect America's ugly racist past and present. He castigates the clubby children's book publishing industry, where the vast majority of writers, editors, and publishers, 89% in one survey, are white, for the marginalization of books that feature Black, Hispanic, and Asian characters. Nell's historical critique of the industry was The Cat in the Hat Black depicts a sinister system in which children are inculcated with racism by means of cuddly animals and make-believe creatures like the peculiar Oompa Loompas of Chocolate Factory fame. Alrighty. So with all these ads. All right. Nell, a white scholar at Kansas State University, contends too many white people are blind to the systemic racism and white privilege, much of which they absorb early in life through children's literature. Like a detective working in a literary crime scene, Nell patiently builds his case by piecing together clues and evidence and well-known stories from Dr. Seuss. And in the current young adult fiction renaissance, Nell uses such terms as invisible, covert, hidden, absence, and erasure more than 70 times by my count to describe systemic racism's clandestine modus operandi. The star witnesses a 60-year-old cat in the hat whose origins Nell traces to minstrelsy and blackface caricature. Underneath this feline aspect, this hep cat threatens the stability of a white household and challenges the white social order. The clues to the cat's black lineage have been so effectively covered up that they have to be meticulously decoded to demonstrate how the story reflects subconscious white fear of black power. See, right there, all that word salad said, to translate it for you in regular speaking layman's terms English, that basically means that you got to dig to find it because it ain't there. The average person reading it is not going to see it. I loved The Cat in the Hat when I was a kid. I loved Dr. Seuss. Granny You know, my grandmother, Granny, on my dad's side, she was an English teacher. So was my grandfather. And they had books like that in the house. You know, Shel Silverstein, shout out to him. You know, like these books I cherished as a child. I really enjoyed reading them. They were good books for kids. Those are the kind of books you want to read. I didn't see no racism. I just saw a book that I enjoy. I enjoyed, like, you know, the sing-songy style of some of this stuff, the tongue-twisting stuff. It really, reading those books would encourage you to understand language in a different way when you were a child, and it will help you be able to read in the future. So you're going to keep moving. Suess's cat serves as one example of how racism hides openly, indeed thrives in popular culture for young people. Nell writes, the cat's menstrual ancestry reveals Suess's racial unconscious, indicating how his imagination resuscitated and revised early 20th century stereotypes. Then there's a fascinating but creepy episode of Roald Dahl's Oompa Loompas. In Charlie and Chocolate Factory, first published in 1964, the original inhabitants of Loopaland were African pygmies, clearly depicted in an illustration reproduced in Nell's book. In the 1973 edition of Dahl's book, the creatures appeared as diminutive white people. A tribe living in thick jungles, the carefree, laughing Oompa Loompas are shipped in packing crates to Europe to labor in a chocolate factory. Stop it. Nell, along with other critics, read this as an allegory for enslavement of Africans and the glorification of colonialism. Okay. But rather than scrub racism from the pages, Nell advocates for restoring the original crude stereotypes like the African Oompa Loompa. Okay, so why not scrub racism from the pages? Why not eliminate the racism? If you think that it's racist, why not get rid of it? Why would you bring it back? What are you trying to do? You're trying to sell your book. That's what you're trying to do. But I digress. The restoration work will have to be limited to academic research like Nell's publishing overt stereotypes, and Kitty Lit is not likely to win favor with the publishing industry, parents, teachers, librarians, or the reading public. Why would it? Why would it? In his assault on racism, Nell threatens white denial of racism as a symptom of the problem. Playing innocent and acting hurt are the default defense postures of the white power structure. This is a white person writing this, by the way. I'm pretty like 100% sure. Nell even dedicates several pages to analyzing the psychology of white fragility, the coping strategies some whites employ when confronted with their racism and privilege. Why is it that these SJWs that claim to be against racism and they claim to be against identity politics, all they talk about is race? Why? Still, there's no way getting around it. Nell's case studies can seem forced. Of course, some readers have a hard time making the link between the cat and the hat's outlandish costume and subliminal racist messaging. After all, the connection was not evident in Dr. Seuss himself or the generations of readers, white and black. Exactly. My point exactly. Readers might also be puzzled by Nell's condemnation of The Hunger Games, the 2008 blockbuster dystopian novel by Suzanne Collins. Nell faults the author for focusing almost entirely on class and gender rather than on race, as if that artistic decision in itself were an unpardonable literary transgression. Nell has also exercised that the novel's jacket omits depictions of humans, further turning attention away from its racially embodied characters. To any hint that Nell can be overzealous in the fight against racism, the academician offers a sharp rebuke. In this case, this is not obvious. White people, especially those affected with white fragility, should get over themselves, Nell writes. Remember that in America, people of color face racism nearly every day. So white people, if you think someone is overly sensitive about race or weighing race too heavily in her analysis, then ask yourself, how would I feel if I faced racism daily? Here's Philip Nell right here. That's the guy, Philip Nell, that wrote the book about the cat in the hat somehow being racist. That's him. Now what we got to do, we got to find the writer of the article. Oh, and here is John Morawski. Oh boy, your white liberals. This is your guy that is talking about, you know, how bad white people are. I mean, this is just really dumb. I'm actually going to go ahead and close here. Thank you for sticking with me for this whole time. I know it's been kind of a long one, but I had to get it out. I had to really just get it out there, do a lot of reading. I'm going to say this as I close. I've pretty much expressed all of my opinions in that piece I just recorded, but The Cat in the Hat, I adore as a child. I love those books. They were great books. When I was a kid, I did not want to read anything that was too serious or too overbearing. I wanted to have fun as a kid. I did not want to read stuff about immigrants and transgenders. All of that stuff is just really ridiculous. Let children be children. Let them play. Let them enjoy their youth. Don't put this serious, depressing stuff on their head when they're a small child. It does not make any sense. So I'm going to leave it at that. So what do you think? Do you think these people, the librarian, Liz Phipps, the guy, Nell, all these people talking about all this SJW stuff as it relates to children, are they overstepping their boundaries? Are they just being too much of virtue signalers? Are they trying to sell their books? The guy with the Cat in the Hat book, he was trying to sell a book, obviously. But what about Liz Phipps? Was she indoctrinated at college? Is this something that she learned from school at a young age or an older age? What's going on with these people? How do you feel about these people teaching your children about literature? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.